Hello and welcome to the Courage Coalition. Today's guest is a past guest, and she is just all warmth and really just connection with self. And so today I get to give you again the gift of Aniston Riekstins. And Anniston is a transformational mentor. She's a master numerologist. She's a speaker. She's a best-selling author of The Universe is Hiring, but she helps women reconnect with their true essence, align with their divine mission, and create lives and business rooted in purpose, clarity, and sustainable success. And really what we're going to talk about today is this. What is it that we get to redefine as purpose or connection, or the word that we all love to talk about, alignment? So welcome, Aniston.
Thank you, Corey. I'm always so excited to spend any kind of time with you, and have just been so blessed to have you in my orbit this past year. And I look forward to doing the same in 2026. So thank you for having me back. I'm excited for this.
Yes. And I just think this is such a powerful conversation because this will be dropping the third week of February. And we've kind of stepped into this new year. And what you and I talked about before we hit record is that it is this powerful horse year, and everyone's energy is just like, yes, go. But what if that doesn't even feel right? And why doesn't it feel right? And the conversations around nervous systems and alignment, and how we love to throw these words and these thoughts out there, but actually haven't taken the time to consider what it means for us, our bodies, our own personal year, right? Because our own personal year is going to look different in a horse year or a snake year, whatever it is, than the next person's. So I would love for you to just dive into what comes to your head first when we start talking about this, because there's going to be a lot of things we're going to unravel here.
Yeah.
So what comes first when we start talking about whether it's numerology or astrology or just the word nervous system or alignment?
So many things, Corey. So many things come forward for me. And this is why I love you, because it doesn't have to be like either or. It's like both and. Let's just talk about it all. Okay, let's go for it. Well, you started by talking about the fire horse year. So I'll dive in there, because I think as we're recording this now, we are just days after the new year, right? And as a society, we as a collective, we have been conditioned to wrap up the year in December. And then it's like all of a sudden, January, this Capricorn month, is this month that we're meant to just run, right? Well, in the Western Hemisphere, depending on where you live, where we live, that's wintertime. Like we are in winter. And winter is when our ancestors, that is not when they were out there sprinkling seeds and harvesting the fields, because that would have just been cray cray, right? People would have thought they were Looney Tune and lost their minds. And instead it was, the days were shorter, the nights were longer. And so they slept more, they gathered around fires, and they shared stories of the year, and they really spent a lot of time with family. They changed their diet. They ate like root vegetables and stews. Everything shifted because of the season. And they did a lot of planning and preparation, but they very much aligned their lifestyle, their habits, and their behavior with Mother Nature. And because of that, they were in flow with what was going on. They read the stars, and the stars were what helped them plan when they were going to do their harvests. And so there was so much connection there. They felt viscerally this connection with the land, and that they needed to align their behavior with that. And not only because it was better for them biologically, but in honor of something greater than themselves. And I feel like we've lost that, man. Like we have lost that. And you can see it in so many ways. We could really go deep here. But what's interesting is the calendar itself was changed back in Roman times, and it was changed for political reasons. January was not first, considered the first of the year. It was more so around the spring equinox. And
when is
which,
that?
I'm sorry?
And when is the spring equinox?
So the spring equinox is towards the end of March, beginning of April. Okay. So that's when, we start getting into that spring energy. And with it comes natural energy, biologically, mentally. How do you feel, Corey, when you step out and you have that first like spring day?
Yes,
Aren't you? It's like you have a pep in your step.
it's and there's this anticipatory of life. There's this
Yes.
anticipation to get out. I was actually just talking to Chad the other day because I have to have some surgery on my shoulder. And I said, I'm going to have it the middle of February
Perfect.
because I have this plan, right? I cannot be down come April.
Yeah. No.
Right?
No. And you really, if you think about it, like we are energetic beings, and we do have a finite amount of energy. And if you are trying to race when you are meant to walk, this doesn't mean that you don't move. It doesn't mean that you don't create anything or take any action. You just move at a much slower pace. But more so than that, your expectations get to be brought down a few notches. And this, in my opinion, shifts the context that you view yourself. That blame, shame, guilt game we play that third week in January, when all of those New Year resolutions that you were so excited about aren't coming to fruition, or maybe you're not holding on. You were going to go to the gym 6 days a week, and you're pushing hard, and you're going to launch that business. And again, like, doesn't mean that you can't take some big strides in this time, but just don't forget, that this is naturally a slower part of the year. And you should reflect that in your life.
I love it so much because we actually, as we were talking before we hit record, we were both discussing exactly what we've been doing the last couple of weeks. And that's exactly it is. It's settling, it's purging, it's creating this space to be able to grow or expand or align, whatever it is. It's this intentionality of being in yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Being in yourself and listening to a rhythm that maybe you haven't listened to before.
Yeah.
And letting some of God's natural tools be tools of alignment for you. And I think that when we talk about, as we talk about alignment and we talk about the seasons, we can also talk about, as women, we have our own inner seasons, and we go through many different phases. We have for those that are still menstruating, we have a 28-day cycle. For those that are going through menopause, their cycle, they still have hormonal shifts. It's just now it's more linked with the moon's lunar cycles. We have 13 menstruation cycles a year. The moon has 13, lunations a year. That last 28 days, same amount of time as our menstrual cycle. I mean, they used to call it not menstrual cycle, they called it your moon. The women would be like, I'm starting my moon today. And again, like, I think we're coming back there. I really do, Corey. I have to believe it. But for me, a big shift happened for me when I started studying and implementing and allowing my rhythms to fall into alignment with my own internal rhythm, and allowing that to drive my month, because built in is rest. And that was my issue. I didn't have any built-in rest. Zero. I felt so uncomfortable with rest. It was not safe. My nervous system didn't believe it was safe.
Okay, so that we're going to untap a new topic here. And I want to go back for a second because I think there's going to be a lot of naysayers. I mean, I know there's a lot of naysayers because this is not what we've known. And you only know what you know. That's just what it is until you know something different. And I think the beauty of this is that there's so much a part of our culture that is actually yearning for something different. They just, like you said, it's coming because we're yearning for something that's different than what has always been, but we don't know how to get there. We don't know that next step. And I love to remind people is that curiosity in you is that next step. And it's going to look so different for each of us, but that's the beauty of it. So for the naysayers that say, well, of course, of course we're not following the moon cycle. I mean, that's ridiculous. How do we produce businesses, and how do we make money, and how do we evolve as a culture if we're going to go back to our, the 100 years ago and the way they were doing it? That's going backwards. That's not going forwards. Because I can just hear people saying this.
100%. I mean, I get it. I knew about things like cycle tracking, and there's diets out there, like align your diet with the seasons. And I mean, I've known about these things for a very, very long time. But I am a very Capricornian type A. I was a professional. I was working in the professional sphere for a long, long time, and we worked like men, always. My schedule didn't change, and my responsibility load didn't change by the day based on where I was in my menstruation cycle. Are you kidding? I'd be laughed out of the room. And I think what it is it's about, first, it's about education and understanding yourself more, so that if all you do is understand yourself more, you're going to be more compassionate with yourself when you start to understand what's actually really going on, and to stop blaming yourself for, well, why was it last week that, Corey, you might be like, last week I was like jazz hands on social media. Like, you couldn't get me off social media. And this week I'm like, I don't want any part of it. Right. And that, understanding that, for me, it set me free. Like, it really did. It set me free from me feeling like I was broken, like something was wrong with me, because it looked like every other woman I knew was on like a battery powered, never ending energy, always showing up, never faltering, never taking a break. And yet inside of that felt so out of alignment for me. And so but I needed a structure. So that's really what when we start talking about, like, right now we're hearing a lot about operating systems. Like, we need a new operating system. This is what we're talking about here, guys. Okay. Is your operating system. And first you have to understand what has been your operating system, which for many of us has been very masculine, foundational. Like, we work the same every day. We commit, we never falter. We are machines, right? And this hustle and grab what's yours, compete, a lot of lack based action, feeling like you have to chase, or you're going to fall behind, or you're never going to get what you needed to get. And it's like, it's masculine that has become distorted. And we all have masculine energy, but this is masculine at its extreme.
Right.
And but this was how we as women survived in the professional sphere, or as business owners, in order to actually, because it wasn't that long ago, Corey, that women were relegated to the home, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny that you bring that up, because recently I've talked about this several times, whether it was on a podcast or with coaching clients or writing, whatever it is, in the history of just money and women.
Yeah.
Right. And we wonder why it's such a tough subject, is because literally, as soon as, like, my mom's generation, my mom was not, that generation was not allowed to get a credit card without a man's signature, a cosigner, right? Or a home loan. And we so regularly forget what we've come from, as going back and collecting the evidence, and then giving ourselves, for lack of a better way, the pat on the back. Like, look at what you've done. Look at where you've come from. But what I want to ask you really quick, because I know this because you've taught me this, but we talk about how women are not created to do things the same way that men were.
Right.
But there's two things here. The thing that just keeps coming up to my head is that growing up, this is what I heard. You can do anything a man can do, right? But I can't, for many reasons. And I'm going to say I can't. And I say that with pride, because I don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to just talk very shortly about why it is that women are so much different. And when it comes down to those hormones, something that is biologically a part of who we are, but yet we're trying to force ourselves to act in a different way.
100%. And it's largely, I think, because we just weren't we weren't given the information.
Yeah.
I mean, female anatomy overall has
Right.
been largely ignored. I
Yes.
mean, now there, I mean, you're starting to see a lot of it come out now. And I think that will continue to grow, which is really exciting, especially for the younger generations, because they've got a shot at growing
Yes.
up a lot more aware of their bodies. And I'm certainly teaching my daughters. I know you're teaching yours. So essentially, as women, we go through all 4 seasons in one calendar month. So when we talk about your inner winter and then moving into your inner spring and your inner summer and your inner fall, yes, we move through a whole calendar year doing that on planet Earth and in that energy, but we also have our own, and we go through it. We go through it month after month after month. And so during certain parts of your cycle, when you understand it, you see what your superpower is within each of those parts of your cycle. And then you can start to leverage that and see it for the gift that it is. But it will be confronting for many women who, for instance, when they're used to, they're like, oh, I'm menstruating right now, but they're still plugging away just as hard and driving themselves into the ground, and they're not listening to their bodies that is basically saying, okay, you got to slow down a little bit. Like, we need to just cull it back, and you need to create some more space, because this is your most intuitive time, and you can receive all of these great downloads and these great ideas, and this is what this time is for. And if you don't do that, then you're missing this incredible opportunity, but simultaneously you're missing your permission slip to rest,
Yeah.
to slow down. And so in each part of the cycle that you move through, and I don't know if you want me to just briefly touch on it, but there are things that you need to be aware of that are going to be going on with yourself hormonally, so that you don't blame yourself when you feel like a totally different person on certain days of the month, and you're like, I'm just moody. We came up with words, right? You started identifying with a hormonal shift as like it's a personality flaw, when really it's just hormones. And so for me, this was my gateway into the new operating system. When we talk about that, how do you shift out of this male machine? I've got a hustle, hustle, hustle culture. How do you shift? Because the knowing that you need to is one thing, but the actually shifting and really embodying that is a whole other. And I needed a bridge, and this was my
Yeah.
bridge.
And you know what? What just comes up is that we're gonna go into our operating system, and then talking about this really big word right now, the nervous system, and how important it is to us. And I think what you just said is so critical, because we so tend to, we have to find there's got to be a pill, like, and I say a pill like step 1, 2, and 3 in order to do this. And if I can't do it, or it doesn't work for me in that exact same way, then it's just not for me. I just failed, or it's just not for me. I tried it, but it's just not for me. When we start thinking and asking questions like you're asking right now, this is, how does this align? And when we say the word align, it's not chasing somebody else's way. It's like taking that step back. And what you've so beautifully said is what is this for me? So let's kind of talk about how you found the bridge. The bridge for you was cycle tracking, but that's not an answer for most
Mhm.
people, right? What does it look like to start walking that path of understanding a different belief system? Is really what it comes down to. It's truly a different belief system, because like you said, we have grown up being told something. We've been grown up being told, just quit being bitchy. You're on your, no, I could go to all those terminologies, and I'm not going to, but it it is a different belief system about what our body is telling us, and also what we get to do with.
What we get to do with that information. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that quote, know thyself, is coming to me right now. And how, oof, got all chill bumps. And just how real that is. And And I'll use myself as an example, but my journey into this new way of operating came from disconnection. Like I felt completely disconnected. Um, I felt I had hit this point where I had outgrown an identity. I didn't quite know what I was evolving into. And so I did what I always did, which was try to work my way through it. Like I'm just going to keep throwing things at the wall and creating and whatever. The problem was I would be sure one day and then not sure the next, and then doubt myself and then want to blow it all up and start over again. I felt like I was chasing my tail. I had a lot of limiting beliefs. I was coming up against a lot of fear in this unknown space. It's like my whole body was bracing, is what it felt like, just bracing for this. I don't know what was coming. And it just felt nothing felt sure. Nothing felt safe. And it wasn't until I really stopped doing everything and started coming back into my body and becoming embodied, meaning listening and allowing myself to feel all the emotions that I was feeling, that I started to understand where that disconnection had come from, because I had been disembodied most of my life. I didn't pay attention to my body, all of its signals. And what I came to understand was, when you start to align with your body and you pay attention to its signals, there is a tremendous amount of guidance there and a tremendous amount of information. And I realized all along my body had been speaking to me about, this is not for you. This is for you. This is out of alignment. This is in alignment. I didn't know how to interpret the signals because I wasn't allowing myself to feel them. And so when someone says like, well, this isn't for me, is cycle tracking the only way? No, absolutely not. But I actually believe that so much of this enlightenment, and people talk about expansion and ascension and really like growing spiritually, we always think of up and out. It's actually down and in. It's in that you find yourself, you reconnect to yourself. And I have many tools that have come to me as blessings, and one of them being numerology. And that was really, for me, understanding, for instance, some of the numbers and being able to interpret some of the numbers that are really key for me in my life have helped me reframe myself and what I'm here to learn, and to see myself as a student that is in class, that is here to master, not this perfect, this person who is broken and needs to be fixed and is less than, or who is failing at life. And so I know I'm opening up all kinds of cans, but I just,
No, and what I hear you saying is, it's also not to master what everybody else is doing. It's to master what you are here to do.
It's to master you, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. And one of the things, and you guys, this is one of the connections for Anniston and me, is just this power of numerology and the gift that she's given me personally. But one of the things that comes up when we're talking about this is for so many times, I think that as women, especially, because I think about just our roles as women, you know caretakers, mothers, professionals, the list goes on, and it's for men too, because I know that this is very powerful for men too. But for me, what it was is, it was just really reintroducing myself to that person that I've always been. But as a culture, I don't feel like we sit in individual gifts. We want to sit in what it looks like to be successful, but that is this box that is so tiny that it doesn't align with most of us, right? Because we can't all fit in that box. There's just no way. And it's the little things. It's not these, we think about purpose and finding yourself, and we think of these grander, I'm going to become, a world famous world athlete, or whatever it is. But sometimes purpose, and this is just my personal experience, is actually just remembering that one little thing about yourself and realizing that all of a sudden the domino train just connected. It all makes sense now. Oh my gosh, it all makes sense now. And that little connection is sometimes that unlocking of everything else inside of you.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't have said it better myself, Corey. I think you nailed it. And purpose is interesting because we confuse it with titles and labels. And we really do. It's like we want that satisfaction of being able to say, well, this is who I am and this is what I'm here to do. And it be this unmoving, never changing thing. And that's just not the reality because we are ever changing beings.
Right.
I mean, every part of us changes. Every part, every cell is regenerating. I mean, we were never meant to stay the same. But who we came here to be and like the gifts that we came here to share, like passion is engaging with those gifts, right? Passion is that feeling of like just doing what you love to do and you would do for free and you get into flow and you really enjoy it. Purpose is when you share it, right? Purpose is then allowing your gifts to be the medicine for other people and not needing to know how and not needing to know exactly every little detail, but just trusting that when you ground yourself and you build a life around your passions, the byproduct will be a purposeful life. And we forget what those are because oftentimes when we're young, because maybe our gifts look different than those that are celebrated in our society, that we diminish them, we make them small, or we make them inappropriate, or we make them silly, like those just little hobbies that seemed like, oh well, that's silly, you can do that on the side, and then we forget that we can even do things that don't lead to money. There's a lot of people I work with that as a coach that we have to work through a lot of wounding around, well, if it's not going to make you money, it's a waste of your time.
Right.
And
Right.
that belief alone will lead to a very unfulfilled life, unfortunately.
And when you talk about that, just what rears up so powerfully is that a lot of times if you release the grip on what that passion looks like and just step into it, just step into whatever happens, if it's forever just something that costs you money, if it's forever just something that just brings you joy, for whatever it is, how many times I have actually seen it become a primary source of income.
Yeah. I bet you have.
Right? Because there was no grip or meaning behind it. It was just like this, I want to do this, then go do it. Make it a part of your plan. Go do it. Spend intentional time doing it. And what that does, how that transitions us or moves us into different places. Oh, we're so squirreling right now, and that's perfectly beautiful. I love it. But what I want to come back to is that, okay, so there's this magnificent tool of numerology, and we're born into it because it's all backed by the day you were born, the time you were born, all those things. And
Yeah.
what I love is that we're coming right back to what you said and coming back to nature, coming back to silical. We're born in a specific silical. So if you're into astrology, you think about your sign, right? You think about where the moon was and the star was, the planets were. So let's come back. I kind of want to go a little bit full circle here and talk about how the tool or the gift of numerology actually helps you begin. Maybe cycle tracking's for you, maybe it's not, but this is another tool, and how they're actually all connected.
Sure. So I love cycles, anything to do with cycles. So I do cycle tracking, and I also love to study numerology, which there's a part of numerology which teaches about the natural universal cycles that Mother Earth follows, which is a 9-year cycle, and simultaneously our own personal year cycle. And we are all at one point or another on this 9-year cycle, and each year has a theme. And So this is more than just like party trick information, like, oh, cool, I'm in this. What is so powerful about understanding where the universe is and their cycle, because, well, number one, understanding that and understanding what year that we're in helps you have more context for what is happening collectively, which helps you manage your nervous system, which is the stress response to the unknown, right? To change, to fear.
To fear.
Okay. So we fear what we don't know. When we have no context, we make up lots of stories about it. Our mind is going to spin narratives for days about how scary it is, how horrible it's going to be, and all of these things. But when you have a tool that can, it's not here to take your free will away. It is not here to predict exactly what is going to happen. It is here to say, hey, here's a little energetic weather report for you, just so you're prepared. Okay. Just so you're prepared.
We know how realistic the weather is.
Right. We know it's going to happen regardless of whether it's raining, it's raining. So I love rain. The person next to me might hate rain, right? But you better believe I'm bringing an umbrella with me. If I know it's going to be raining, I'm going to be prepared for it, right? And that way it's not something that has to ruin my day and my whole outfit, right? And this is much the same. And so understanding that is important. Understanding your personal year is even more important, because this is the energy that you will experience. It's basically the energy that you are being initiated into each year. Okay. Like on a soul level, it is going to create some of the story arcs that you experience throughout the year. And again, this is not about taking your power away or putting you in a box. It is saying, hey, so this is going to be more of the focus, because if we don't have a focus, it would be like we would become like jack of all trades and masters of none, right? We have to learn, and this is how we learn.
And don't you feel kind of like the focus is kind of the, like, if you don't have a focus, you're gripping everything because
Everything.
you can't everything. So, okay, so we are going to be coming into, because we started this way too, and I think this is really important for people to hear, is that just because we're in a fire horse year doesn't mean we're not actually quite there yet. Yes, it's a year one. Correct me wrong if I'm wrong.
Yep. So it is a universal year one. So it's the beginning of a whole new 9-year chapter collectively, right? Last year, 2025 was the end, and a lot of closure, a lot of purging, a lot of awareness coming. 9-year often is when the awareness happens of like, oof, this can't keep going the way that it is.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of awareness we started seeing collectively of like people being like looking at government from a different light, questioning what they've always been told. You know, why do we have this healthcare system? Why is education the way that it is? Right. This is where it all starts to kind of like the pot starts to simmer. Okay. Then the 1 year is when we take off the lid and we're like, okay, so this is about initiation. It's about newness, new solving old problems with new solutions. But there's a lot of things that probably need to be deconstructed before they can be reconstructed. And this is where, again, this is not about fear mongering. This is not about, this is about the people starting to speak for what it is they want. And astrologically, like we the people is going to be that new, we the people are going to be heard. And
I love that.
So, that fire horse is amazing, but here's the thing. Individually, we all are going to be experiencing that, like that one energy. We're all going to feel it. But the fire horse is symbolized by passion, not just running full out speed, right? And this is why I'm kind of, we're not so squirrely. I'm bringing this back. I'm bringing it back. So when we're talking about purpose and we're talking about how your purpose is aligned with your passion, we don't just need people standing up and just doing a lot. We need people standing up and being willing to showcase their unique gifts to the world and to move forward and say, I'm not only going to do this thing and I'm going to hone this gift, but I'm going to share it. And in the sharing of it, we will build a new earth. Like we will build a whole new template, but people have to align with what that passion is before. Otherwise, there's going to be a lot of people that are probably just going to be busy, creating all kinds of chaos. And then by the end of the year, feeling completely disconnected from all of it. And then there are going to be those that slow down, that don't feel the need to run because they are so in their current, they are so in their lane, and they are showing up, they're creating, and they're in their passion, and they're excited, and they will change the world.
I love that. And what I want you to focus on, because this is where I feel like the power comes, is you had mentioned it, is that we have to realize that, yes, we are collectively in a year one, but where are you personally?
Yes.
And how does that connect with the year one? And if you want to use me as an example, you are welcome to, if you want to use yourself, but I am in a personal year 22.
Yes. So you are in a big year. So there are 9-year cycles, and then there are master number. There's 9. So in a personal year, it's 1 through 9. Except there are 2 master number years. It's either a master number 11 or a master number 22. We're happy I can share a calculation with Corey. You can put it in the show notes for those of you that are listening and be like, well, what personal year am I in? Essentially, you just add up all of the the digits of your month of birth, your day of birth, and then the current year, not your year of birth, the current year. And when you add up all those numbers, you break it down to a single number, that's your personal year. So I'll use you as an example. Being that we are universally in a year one, which is going to be a lot of newness. It's a lot of new beginnings. You're in this 22 year, which also reduces down to a 4 a little bit, which is a building year. Like this is a year that not only are you going to be building systems and processes and being like, okay, I have these ideas, which you do, you have ideas, right? But this is really where that feminine and masculine balance comes in. The ideas come in very flowy and feminine and creative and exciting. And then the masculine's like, yeah, but how are you actually going to make this? Okay. So the 3 year is like that flowy kind of, let's get into our feminine. And then the 4 is very Saturnian. It's very like masculine. It's going to be like, show me. Show me how you're going to build this structure. How are you going to make this happen? How can you build a foundation like that is so sturdy that you can build this thing upon and you know that it will continue to last? Like this is not just going to be a quick little thing that you create, but something that will last for a lifetime. And because it's a 22 year for you, this is a milestone year. Not all of us get 22 personal years in our lifetime. It's never a guarantee. It's just how it all calculates up. But what it speaks into is what you work on this year is legacy material. Like it's important. Okay. Like, so
that
it's like
teary-eyed. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like sitting here. Wow.
It's like no pressure, Corey, but no pressure. You are building and the foundation that you're building it and who you are being, right, while you're building this, and the kind of people that you're magnetizing in to support your mission and your purpose this year you're going to look back at this year like in hindsight and be like, yeah, this is where it really started to build. And so but I'm not going to lie to you. This is a year that's going to say, you got to work. You're going to put in the time and you're going to have to go and do not skip steps, because if you skip steps and you try to do something too quickly, the 4 is going to pull you right back and it's going to say, you skipped a step, start over, or you skipped a step, go fix it. And so like I have a client who is a business owner, and last year she kept calling me. She's like, this 4 year is she was like, this 4 year is really giving me a run for her money, because it's like all these like tiny little issues would pop up, like with training with her team, where they would be like doing the wrong thing. And then she'd be like, well, I guess I need to update my training manual. And that's something that's the crack there. Her accounting system had they missed a massive bill or their accountant did. So rather though than just looking at this as a victim, she looked at it as like gifts,
Yeah.
because she knows that what she's building is meaningful. And so she was able to say, interesting. This is not a problem. This is an opportunity for me to really create the strongest foundation for this business and for my team as possible. And so she would go back and say, okay, team, now we're going to fix this. Right. And so next year, and when you hit that 5-year and you hit that speed, like you should be able to really grow a lot from this space because you've created the structure.
Oh, I hope that made sense. I mean, I hope that was able for people to see that there's this sub and there's this power and there's these numbers that are just for you based on when you were born. And I think that is so powerful. And maybe it's just because I'm just such an emotional being. I mean, I'm an empath. I think the day I was born, it goes back to you were born on purpose, for a purpose,
Yes.
in perfection in God's eyes. And I'm like, it makes sense that I was born, because I will tell you, like, hands down, till this last year when I have worked with Anniston, I did not like being an Aries. I did not feel connected to it. I felt very withdrawn from it. It just did not. The term Aries and the definition of Aries, I was like, that is not who I am. What the heck? Right?
Yeah.
But it was going deeper. It was getting curious, and the tools that Aniston has taught me about my birthday and re-knowing who I am. Then it's like, oh, she is kind of that person, right? But it was getting to know her again. So I hope that if you're listening and you are curious, because curiosity is what leads us to that change. Remember that you're going to look at the show notes and you're going to say, okay, I'm going to figure out my personal year, and then maybe ask some questions. Maybe that's reading Aniston's book. Maybe that's connecting with Anniston on social. She has some great groups of women on social. So please feel free to reach out and do that. And I will connect those in there. But before we wrap up, there's two things I really want you to help listeners understand, or begin to understand, I should say, is how does, because we talked about your nervous system is that stress response to not being aligned or being in flow. How does that look for people? And actually, what is the effect of having this really maxed out nervous system all the time?
Well, it is really destructive to the human form, for sure. So if we talk about nervous system, essentially it's responses. It is a response to what is happening. I'm hearing the echo again. I wonder if that's so weird. It just started.
Okay, I'm not hearing, but you're hearing it. Okay.
I'm hearing it.
Hold on a second. Where am I at? I'm at 4318. Okay, so 43. Let's see here. You're still on echo cancellation. I'm still on echo cancellation.
I wonder what it is.
Weird.
I know. I didn't want to not say anything. I'm on echo cancellation as well.
Right. Okay, give me a second here. Let me see. Let me go back up to the top ones. Well, poo.
Let me talk now and see. I'm still a little bit of echoey.
And the most thing we could do is you could go out and come back in. That's the only thing I've ever seen to fix it, besides the.
Is that going to really screw up your editing?
I mean, it just makes me edit more.
Oh God.
That's what it does. I mean, that's the extent of it. But I mean, I don't want it to be, if it's really bad, I don't want it to be echoey, because I'm not hearing anything.
Okay. Well, I'm not hearing myself now.
Okay, then let's just continue.
Let's just go. Okay. All right. So I was talking about nervous system. Okay. All right. So the easiest way for us to understand our nervous system is it's our stress response. It's when our body is responding by having an elevated heart rate, by, all of a sudden shallow breathing, by feeling anxious, by bracing, gripping, by like kind of cowering, shifting our posture. Really what it is it's a response, but oftentimes it's not necessarily it's not responding to what is actually happening around you. Oftentimes it's responding to your mind future casting about certain things. And interestingly enough, in the present moment, they've even polled people who have had like, I mean, like truly severe experiences, like, but they don't remember feeling fear in the present. But feeling fear thinking about it, right? So that nervous system is wired to keep us safe. That was the whole intention of the nervous system, was that our ancestors, they could be picking berries and something would alert them to, I think that there's a predator, right? Or like there's a lion that is coming. And so it would get your attention, and it really was about survival. We are in a very different time in our life though, but our nervous system hasn't been updated. And the lives that we have built, this technology and all of these things, unfortunately, have really given our nervous systems a run for their money. Because used to be, we had built in time where we were away from work. When are we away from work now, right? We carry these devices around. We've got, I mean, all kinds of access points and so much information coming in. And so really what when you become dysregulated, your heart and your mind are no longer talking to each other. And you are also making decisions from your 7-year-old self. That's essentially what it is. You're not making decisions with logic and reason. You're making decisions from your emotional brain. And thus you can look back and be like, why did I do that? That was really stupid. Why did I make that decision? Why did I start dating that guy? Why did I marry that guy? Why did I do this? Because you were in a prolonged state of dysregulation. You weren't actually operating as who you are. And so in order to start to regulate your nervous system, it's not just enough to know. You actually have to start to embody and rewire and recode, which requires when your nervous system is having a moment of feeling not safe and you can feel the symptoms happening in your body, that you actually stop what you're doing. I will put my hand on my heart, my hand on my lower belly. I will breathe in and I will just say out loud, you are safe. Like, Anniston, you are safe. You are safe. You are safe. And only then when I calm down will then I start to be like, where did that come from? And actually try to think about. But if you until you regulate your body and you bring yourself back to a state of calm, that word, I know it's been thrown around a lot in social media lately, like soften. Like I just soften, right? I used to think that was weak. I was like, I don't want to be soft. I want to be powerful, right? And then I started to understand what that meant. When you soften, you relax. Your body is relaxed. When your body is relaxed, you are so much more open to your intuition is totally turned on. It's telling you the shortest, easiest path forward. Your creativity is open, and it feels safe to express yourself. And so a lot of the resistance that we actually come up against, if you're a business owner or maybe you are, I'm guessing if you listen to this podcast that you probably have a passion and you have a purpose, but if you've had resistance to actually getting it out in the world, most probably it's a nervous system issue. And you've got to update that nervous system because the fear lives in your cells. There's memory. We carry memory from our ancestors of
Yeah.
fear. And that's what, when it starts to go off, you just have to slow. That's why, again, we kind of come back to this thing about, Mother Nature always builds in time for stillness and to slow down so that you can update your nervous system as you expand.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Love that. And it comes in perfectly because the second question I wanted to ask is, you know, how do we how do we begin if someone's listening to this and they've never even, maybe they don't even have quiet built into their life yet, right? You talk about softening. What I was thinking of is I am the softest. I'm at my most soft each day in the morning. It is when I'm vibrant, I'm alive. It's when I'm journaling. It's when all the thoughts are coming in. But I intentionally create space there. And I've had to, right? I've had to do that in order to give myself that gift. So how do people begin to In the beginning, you talked about it's time for us to come back to Mother Nature. Maybe someone that was like, oh, I would dream of a day like that. How can we begin that process of actually coming back to the way our earth is created, the way our bodies are created, because we are a being of the earth,
Yeah.
so that we can celebrate ourselves and the way we process and move through this world a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, I can share with you what I did. And this is coming from me because I don't believe there's just one way to do this. I think there's so many ways. And for me, I always start by research. I'm a researcher by nature. I love knowledge. I love to consume. But that was also became a hindrance and a crutch for me because that was safe, right? Just taking in a lot of knowledge. So I could recommend books, but I don't actually think that's going to give you what you're looking for, right? Which is full an experience, like feeling it and embodying it and it becoming a part of who you are. And I actually believe that Mother Nature was always designed to be our greatest teacher. And that all the questions you might have of the universe or the truth of things, you can actually find the answers just going on a walk in the forest and seeing how Mother Nature, she doesn't grow things in perfect little rows with all landscaped and you know what I mean? And I mean, it's like it's craziness, right? Where it's just more and more and more. And it's like, and then if you walk around in fall and you see all the leaves just when the wind comes, they let it go. They just let it go. They let the leaves fall and they're not gripping and no, no, no. Like, let me hold on to all my leaves, right? Because there's an understanding and a remembrance that, oh, that's right. Yes, we do this every year. We grow, we have a harvest, we share our harvest, and it not only benefits me as the tree, but it benefits the squirrels and it benefits all the life that it supports and the oxygen and of all human beings. But simultaneously, I know that I'm not meant to grow 365 days a year.
Right.
Like I have to let go and create space. And so when you can start to really become an observer of Mother Earth and how she doesn't necessarily move in linear time, and sometimes it doesn't make sense, the things that happen, but that there is an intelligence to it and an order to it, and that we live in an abundant universe.
Yeah.
And that alone, like just I think there is no substitution for actually spending time out in nature because energetically there's a lot of remembrance that happens that doesn't necessarily happen on the mind level. It happens on in the body level and energetic level. And I know you can probably relate to this, Corey, because you moved to one of the most beautiful states in the US. And I know that you love to hike and you love to be outside. And just by paying attention to how do you feel when you come back from one of those, of just being outside and being in nature and being away from all the electronics and just being with yourself, how do you feel? That if you just start to pay attention to that, that is the beginning.
And I think, and most anyone that's listening knows how I feel. It's where I actually began my journey of connecting back to myself, is once we moved here to Montana and I took those nature walks. And I didn't understand what was happening when when it was all happening. But I also encourage people, because I actually know people that are actually scared to be in nature, like my kind of nature, right? They're scared. They're like, what's going to happen? And so they cannot relax and listen. And if that is you, that's beautiful. But where are you connected? Where are you connected to yourself outside of the computer screen, outside of the earbuds in your ears? Because then that's just more noise.
Yeah.
Find your place. I know people in New York City that they find it in Central Park.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's still nature. It's still, a connection. It's still quiet in your way. What's quiet for you isn't quiet for me, and what's quiet for me isn't quiet for Anniston, right? It's We have to find our way, which is what we've been going back to over and over in the course of the last hour. Is that your way is individual to you. And that is the absolute beauty of it. That is the gift. But we have to connect with what that looks like. We have to ask ourselves those tough questions. Am I following somebody else's path, expecting to find my passion? Or am I actually asking myself those hard questions? And also giving ourselves grace, because it's not going to just be linear, right? We're going to go, oh, yeah, we need to go do X in order to do Y, and then realize that we got nothing from it. Instead of beating ourselves up over it, what did
Yeah.
you learn from it?
Yeah.
Right? What did you
100%.
learn? Yeah.
What did you learn from it? This year, especially, I think in 2026, it's going to ask you to really not only find, but to walk your unique path,
Yeah.
and to let go of that need to follow the herd,
Yeah.
and to just trust like the walk that your path gets to be the path less traveled, but it will simultaneously, it will bring you exactly where you need to be, and it will feel the best to you.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much, Aniston, for taking the time to be on again and really share what I truly believe is a new thought process, even though it's so old,
Mhm.
right? We have left a lot of those old tools by the wayside for something what we thought was better. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. That's not for here or there, but a new tool or an old tool learn new again, and just really what the the gift can be if we step into understanding it more, getting curious about it more. I will drop everything we've talked about. Aniston can give me a link, or I just even the written out for the personal year, and I can drop it in so you can figure out your personal year. But if something really touched you today or made you question some things, just get curious about it. We heard Aniston say she's a researcher, but we can all learn something more about something that nudges us or gives us goosebumps. That's that intuition. That's what's already inside of us, right? Because it's going to be different for each of us. And reach out, is it to me, to Aniston, or to somebody else that may be doing this, and get some more information and see what it does for you personally. And if it's not what you think it's supposed to be, what is something else, right? Because again, as Aniston so beautifully said, is what works for one of us is not going to work for the next one of us. But the key is connecting more to self. So until next time, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Love you, mean it.